In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do the continuous join as you go method. So this is for any granny squares. So I've done 4 rounds on my granny squares just here. And then the continuous join as you go is the 5th round, but it's worked in a way that we're going to just join all of these granny squares all at once. It's a really nice way of doing your grannies for projects like this, so that you don't have to do 5 rounds and then sew or crochet them all together. It's all done at once, and it's a really nice, super sturdy join as well. So this is a toddler size poncho that I've just done here, and these are some of the squares that I've got left over, so I'll show you how we're going to join these together. So a few things to note before we get started. You can do this method with any size granny square. So if you've only got 2 rounds, if you've got 6 rounds, this will just apply to the final round that you want of your granny square, where we're going to join it all together. I will also just point out that some of these granny squares that I'm using have super short ends. That's because I had used these granny squares in a project and I'd sewn in the ends, and then I needed to undo it, and this is the damage control from that. So these are kind of like my sample squares. So ordinarily my ends would be much longer. We'll just ignore that for the sake of this video. Okay, so when we're working this, we want to have our squares laid out in the order that we want them, just so that we have that in our mind. We're going to start in this top corner here, and then we're going to work our way around this top section, so this top row, and then we're going to work around the next row down. Now, of course, if you had more squares, we would just continue across that top row, and then if we had more rows, we would continue to go down. I have this little diagram here. So as I say, we're going to start at the top. This is an example of 6 squares across in total. So we're going to go across, round, across, like I mentioned. And then we're going to go all the way back over and then do the same thing. You'll notice here when we get to the final row, we're then going to go right back up and meet ourselves at the beginning. So in this example here, we'll start here, go across, down, up, across, down, up, across, down, all the way across. And then repeat the same thing all the way across, and then finish this row just here. So I'll keep coming back to this view so that you can be mindful of how it's looking. But let's go ahead and take our very first square, which is this one right here, and then we're going to join in the top corner. So I'm going to be using this yarn for my border colour, just like I have on the toddler poncho, and hopefully this will make it really easy for you to see where we're going with this. I also want to point out that this will also work no matter how you do your granny squares. I know some people put a chain 1 in between, which I do. Some people don't like that. Some people do a chain 3 in the corner, a chain 2, a chain 4. It doesn't matter. I do a chain 3, so I'll talk you through that, but you can adapt it to however you do your granny squares. You don't have to do them exactly the same as me. Okay, so let's grab this very first granny square, which we're going to be working on, and you want to connect in the top corner just here, the yarn that you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and join with a slip stitch into that corner space. I'm going to chain 3 for my first treble crochet. Remember, I'm working in UK terms, so in the US this is known as a double crochet. I'm going to work my first 3 trebles into this corner space. Please be mindful that I'm showing you the continuous join as you go method here rather than actually teaching you the stitches. So if you need some videos for that, I have a tutorial for it, so go ahead and check the description. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm just going to continue my way across this first edge, so the top edge, by working the stitches that I would normally do in my 5th round. So 3 trebles, chain 1, 3 trebles, and I'm working my way across to this chain 3 corner space. So in my corner I work 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and then 3 trebles, and then I'm going to continue to work this edge as well, so this side of the square as well. So all the way down to the corner, just as we would normally. Again, you may not chain in between your 3 trebles. Doesn't really matter if you do or you don't. It's all personal preference really. So we're just going to start working our corner here. We're going to do our 3 trebles and we're going to chain 3, but we're going to stop there. So let's take a look at how this is looking now with the other squares in place. So this is where we're up to. We've come across the top. This is our starting point. You can put a stitch marker there if you wanted to. We've come across, we've come down, and now we're going to take our second square and start to crochet these 2 together. So this is where we're up to, and we're going to continue this way. So for this square, we're going to do 3 sides of the square, and then for this square, again, we're going to do 3 sides of the square before we then come back on ourselves. So let's again put these to one side, and then we'll come back to these 2 squares. So I've just turned this to the side because I'm now going to work my 3 trebles into this corner space of the next square. So 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3. And then instead of doing a chain 1 into to move over to the next space, I'm actually going to look at the chain 1 space of the first square, and I'm going to slip stitch into that chain 1 space. Now again, even if you don't do a chain 1, you would still just slip stitch into that space. We'll then find the next space and do our 3 trebles. So it's just like working our ordinary 5th round, if that's the round that you're on, but instead of chaining 1, you're slip stitching into the corresponding space on the previous square. So 3 trebles, and slip stitch, 3 trebles, and slip stitch, and then this brings us to the corner space of this square. So I'll do my 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3. Instead of chaining 3, I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to slip stitch into that corner space of the previous square, and then I'm going to chain 1. If you only chain 2, you could slip stitch and then chain 1, or chain 1 and slip stitch. It's totally up to you. We're then going to continue to work that corner space by working our 3 trebles into that corner space of the current square. So what we've done now is we've created this section just here. So we've done our 3 trebles, chained 1, slip stitched into the corner space of the previous square, chained 1 and then 3 trebles, and it's joined those 2 corners together to create this flat edge across the top. So in terms of this drawing, we've just joined these 2 squares. So we've come across, down, up, and now we're going to go across the top again. So I'm going to chain 1 and then work across. Chain 1, 3 trebles. So working my way to the corner. So remember, this corner is going to be just a normal corner. So 3 trebles, chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and then 3 trebles into that same corner space. And then chain 1 and work our way down this edge. So we'll work our way to the next corner, but the next corner is going to be where we introduce the next square. And again, I'll show you all of the squares together to see where we're up to, just so you can feel a bit more confident as to what you're joining. So we're going to start with our 3 trebles into this corner, and then do our chain 3, 1, 2, 3. However, those next 3 trebles will go into our next square, and then these are the squares from the row below. So this is where we're up to. We're going to work our way back up this edge. We're going to join the corner here again, and then we're going to work our way across the top and then down this edge. So I'll show you once more how we're going to attach this. So let's go ahead and attach this corner. Just move these out of the way. We're going to turn our work a little bit to make it easier to work into this next square. So our 3 trebles, 2 and 3, and then we're going to find that next space. Instead of chaining 1, we're going to slip stitch, and then we'll go 3 trebles into the next space. So 1, 2 and 3. Instead of chaining 1, slip stitch into the next space, and again 3 trebles, 2, 3, slip stitch into the next space, 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into the next space. That then takes us to the corner again. So we'll work 3 trebles into the corner, 1, 2 and 3. Instead of doing our chain 3, we're going to chain 3. The next one's going to be a slip stitch into the previous corner space, and then chain 3, and then work our 3 trebles into that corner space as normal. 1, 2 and 3. So now we've just joined those edges again, like so, and then we're starting to get our flat top edge. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to work this top edge, the corner as normal, and then down this edge, and I'll meet you back and show you what we're going to do next. So here's where we're up to. I've joined my top 3 squares. I've now come down the edge, and I've done 3 treble crochets into this corner space. What we've done previously is done 3 treble crochets and then join the next square. However, this is the final square of my row. So now we're actually going to work all the way across this edge here to then start the same joining pattern again. So let's again take these out the way. I'm going to turn my work because now we're working across this bottom edge. I'm going to chain 3 and then work my 3 trebles into this corner space as usual. And then I'm going to work my edge stitches. So I'm chaining 1, 3 trebles. And we're going to work all the way to that corner space. 2 and 3, chain 1, 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, chain 1, and now we're in this corner space. So we've already got 3 trebles in that corner space, which we did previously. So we need 3 trebles in there, 1, 2 and 3. And what we're going to do here is we're going to chain 1, slip stitch into this chain 3 space and chain 1. And then we're going to do our 3 trebles into that next space. And what that has done is it's joined those corner spaces. So chain 1, slip stitch into that chain 3 space, chain 1, and then continue the corner. So let's go ahead and do that one more time. So I'm going to work my stitches across to the next corner. So here's my corner space. It's already got those 3 trebles from before. So we'll work 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3. We'll chain 1. We'll slip stitch into this chain 3 space, and that creates a faux corner here. And then chain 1 and work 3 trebles into the next space, like so. We're then going to work our way to this corner here, just working 3 trebles of the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and work my way across this space, and then I'll come back and show you where we're up to. Okay, so I've worked my way across this edge and I've done 3 trebles, chain 3 in this corner. So if I just turn my work to view it in the way that we have been, this is the starting point, and then these are my next squares. What we're going to do now is start to join the next row. So we're going to join this square next and then the following 2. So where we're up to in the chart, we've come up and down all of these squares and we've come all the way across, and now we're going to go up and down the squares again. So I've done my chain 3 here. Again, we're just going to ignore these super short ends. And then we're going to do 3 trebles into this corner space. So this is the top corner space of the first square of the row. And then these are just the same as we've been doing before. So we're going to slip stitch into that next stitch. And then we're going to work 3 treble crochets into that next space. Slip stitch, 3 trebles, slip stitch, 3 trebles, and then slip stitch. Now because this time our corner has actually got something to connect to now, whereas before it didn't when we were doing the first corner. We're going to do 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, chain 1. We're then going to take a look at our corner spaces, and then you want to find the corner that's diagonally across. So as we're looking at our squares, this is the one diagonally across. This is the corner space here for that square. We're going to slip stitch into that one, chain 1, and work our corner space, or finish our corner space. So now that is joined, like so. If I just open this out, we have a corner, a corner, a corner, and then these larger sections just here are actually the join spaces. So let's just work our way down the ends of this edge. So continuing to follow the joining path. There's nothing to join to, so we're doing 3 trebles and chain 1. And then we're going to do our corner space. We're going to join the next square for this one. So we'll do 3 trebles, chain 3. And then we're going to join this next square here. Sorry, got my squares the wrong way round. So this square here, and then this square here. In fact, I might switch these round just because I think it's going to be easier to show you this bit on a different colour. So here we are. We're going to grab this next square, and as we have been doing, we're going to do 3 trebles into that corner space, 1, 2 and 3. Slip stitch into the chain 1 space of the previous square. And we're going to work the same thing across. However, the corner space is just going to be ever so slightly different for this one. So 3 trebles, slip stitch, 3 trebles, slip stitch. We're at the corner space now. We're going to do 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, chain 1, and we're going to join to the one diagonally, so it will be into this square. So we'll find that corner just here. This time though, what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a loop and take out our hook, go into that corner space of the one diagonally. So here is that corner space, and we're going to pull through that loop and then chain 1. The reason I like to do that is just because at this point those stitches are a little bit bulkier, so it just kind of makes a slightly neater finish. And then you're going to continue with your 3 treble crochets into the corner space, and then you'll slip stitch into the next space. So from this point you're going to continue to work your way across, working your slip stitch into the square which is diagonal from you, and then go down, back up, connect into the square diagonal, and then across, and then down into this corner space just here. So you can rewind the video for this corner section if you need to, but I'm going to go ahead and join these, and I'll meet you back once I'm in this section just here. Okay, so let's take a look at where we're up to now. We've joined this top row, we came back along the straight path here, and then we've joined across, down and up, across, down and up, across, and then we've just worked down. So now I'm going to turn my work so that I can follow that straight path across the bottom of this row. So I had already done my 3 trebles and my chain 3 in this corner, and now I'm just going to work across each of these spaces all the way to the end. So we'll just remind you how we're going to work over that corner space, because that corner space has a chain 3 there already and some stitches worked on both of the squares. So here's my corner space. It's a little bit more tricky to see here, apologies, because this previous round is the same colour, but this is that corner space, and then this is the other corner space, and these are the trebles which go into those corresponding spaces. So we're going to work 3 trebles into here, 1, 2 and 3, and then we're going to do a chain 1, find this chain 3 and slip stitch into there, and then chain 1, and then work 3 trebles into the next corner space and continue to work across this straight path. So if I lay this down, I'm going to work my way all the way across to this final corner here, and then if I flip my work round to show you how we've been looking at it normally, I'll work across to here, and then we're going to finish by coming straight back to the beginning. So I'm going to work my way to this corner, and then I'll show you what we do on this final way back up to the beginning. So here I am in this final bottom corner. We aren't joining this corner to anything. So this can be your standard corner, 3 trebles, chain 3, and then 3 trebles, and then we're going to do the same thing as the straight pass, but this time we're returning to the beginning. So working our stitches as normal across these final unworked edges. We'll find that we come to another one of those corner spaces where there's a chain 3 and the start of the corner already worked. So we'll do our 3 trebles, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, and then 3 trebles to finish off that next corner space, chain 1, 3 trebles, chain 1, 3 trebles, chain 1, 3 trebles, and then chain 1, and then we have our very first corner space. So we're going to work 3 trebles, 1, 2, and 3, chain 3, and then join with a slip stitch to the top of your chain 3, fasten off, and there we have our finished panel. Now if you are working something like this poncho, where you essentially, if I turn it round like this, you have 2 rows of 3 and a row of 2. All you would need to do is join as we have, and then join in these next 2 rows, and instead of joining another one, you just come down the bottom and then return your way up to the top. So it's exactly the same as what we've done here, you just wouldn't add your final square. And this is really nice because you are left with only one end to sew in. And if you like the thought of making something where you only have one tail end to sew in like this, instead of being like this with loads of ends to sew in, then you might want to check out this video right here.